Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Office Hours. Welcome to the AstroPub. My name is Paul, Berserker01, Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub, your space bar at the end of Twitch. Let me switch this up, please. There we go. Hey, how's it going? Welcome. Weepy Sleeper, how you doing, buddy? I keep meaning to change. I have a brand new background that a fantastic artist and creator and community member has made for me, and I still keep forgetting to put this up there. But so fucking busy. Oh, this is a juicy ISE. Yeah, it's pretty good. I still preferred the last ISE to this one because this one feels very. I don't know if we got as much information. I don't think we got a lot of. We got more details, but I don't think we got like as much information on like what's actually coming in. As it was like, oh yeah, we're planning on doing this, this, and this. It's like, okay, this is where I play Mr. Contrarian and say the last one was better. One that everyone was like, eh. For this one, I'm just like, eh, it's not that good. We are still sponsored by Factor. Factor's a fantastic meal service. I've used it in the past. If you often find yourself coming home from work or from school and you are exhausted, you don't have enough time or energy to make yourself a dinner, but you don't want to go out and eat, but you still want good quality meals. You don't want to like the kind of like fast food stuff. Factor's fantastic service. You get good quality, well-balanced meals, a good variety of those meals. You can put it in the fridge. They come to you once a week. You put them in the fridge, and to use them, you just pull them out of the fridge, poke holes in them, throw them in the microwave, set it for 2 to 3 minutes, and you're done. Pull it out, eat it, you're done. Fantastic service. I've used it in the past, and with my code, !Factor in chat, we'll give you a code. You get 50% off of your first box, which is a fantastic deal. I think you can get like 10 boxes for like $120, $130. So you can get effectively 10 meals for $60, which is a really good deal. Yeah, especially with Factor about that one. Hey, Paul, I'm about to start substitute teaching. Any pointers? Do your best to follow any lesson plans left by the teacher. Try to get to know your students as best as possible, if you can. But a lot of what you're going to be doing is simply just being a warm body in the room, and that's fine. Don't take it too seriously in the sense of like, don't try to be too much of a disciplinarian. Just do what you're supposed to do, and you'll gain a lot of mileage, especially if you end up being like a what do they call them? Kind of like an on-site sub, I guess. It's basically where you're a sub for only one campus. You get a lot of mileage with the kids by just getting to know them. You get to know them, talk with them, figure out what their names are, remember their names, and you know, when you come back to sub another class, that kind of relationship will pay dividends for it. Yeah, it's almost the weekend. I got a 3-day weekend coming up for me, so me and Cam are awesome. It's like, yes. Speaking of which, oh, why does it say Helldivers 2? Oh, I keep forgetting to do that. Let me change it. That's why I only have 18 people on. Because I was playing Helldivers 2 last time. Hey.
You can take away my spaceship.
Spaceship.
You can take away my space suit.
Suit.
You can even take away my space lasers.
No pew-pews.
But you can never,
Never.
ever
Ever.
take away my space game.
XYZ just resubscribed for 8 months. Baby soon pub ORK.
Thank you so much for that 8 months of support there. You're very important, very impressive, very pedestrian. This is your father, Drinking Night. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. Just started playing Helldivers. It's freaking awesome. Hope it doesn't give me unrealistic expectations for Star Citizen. Remember that Helldivers is a very specific type of game. It's a horde shooter built around small maps, which are handcrafted. But once you've played enough of Helldivers, you'll realize that all of the maps are repeated. There's like maybe, yeah, I mean, it's a good deal, but it's like 4 or 5 repeated maps.
But you can never, ever take away my space game.
Puppy_1775 just resubscribed for 14 months.
Thank you so much there, Pappy, for that 14 months of support. You're very important, very impressive, you're very pedestrian. This is your father, Drinking Night. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. Now, I refreshed. I accidentally hit it. I forgot to take it off of Helldivers 2. I forgot to set it to Star Citizen on Twitch. Everyone else is the same, but freedom protects. The one thing I will say is I haven't played it myself, but from the reports I've heard, the defend missions are stupid hard. Like they're frustratingly hard for Helldivers. Like it's a rare L for the devs because it's not really that it's hard in the sense that it's like, oh, it's difficult and, you know, just get good, son. It's more that the way that they balanced it is incorrect. So they make like on lower difficulties it's too easy. On the higher difficulties it's challenging but you can do it. And on the medium difficulties from like hard to like suicidal, it's just impossible. You just can't complete it. So it's honestly what it is that they have a standard curve for how they make things more challenging. And I think what it is that the higher the difficulty is, the tougher and more elite the enemies you face. So, and that more challenging range, you still see a lot of low levels. They just increase the number of low levels you experience, rather than, you know, that other stuff. So,
you can take away my spaceship. You can take away
it's one
my
thing that
space
CIG can learn from the devs there. It's just like,
lasers.
You gotta learn how to do it.
But you can
hard is
never,
fine, but
ever take away my space game.
Muktan_SC just resubscribed for 21 months.
Heck yeah, drinking age at the pub. Thank you so much for that 21 months there. Back to your very important pub, very impressive pisser. Very neat pedestrian. This is your fault. The reason drinking night. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. You saw that they're running another Idris test in the EPTU. That doesn't surprise me. Victoria, Sergeant, Lieutenant, Lieutenant, LT. How doing, Victoria? Todd Pappy back in the wild. Yeah, I heard that Todd Pappy is no longer working for CIG. I'm not going to speculate too much because, like, I don't know what happened or what's going on. But based off of the images that I've seen of like his social media profile, it looks like he moved, because he was originally in Germany. In fact, he was working in Germany, I think, for Crytek before that. So he'd been in Germany for several years, probably decades by the time up to this point. And it looked like, based off of what I saw on his social media, he's moved to Washington. So it sounds like it's probably a family thing, which wouldn't be the first time. There's plenty of CIG developers, especially high-level CIG developers, who've left CIG because they didn't want to move. So, hey, Buster, how you doing? He was in Frankfurt for a long time, and now apparently is in Washington for his social media. So that makes sense. sad to see Todd Pappy go. I'd love to have seen Todd Pappy kind of make an exit, but you know, that just happens. I'm just curious what they're testing with this random Idris deployments. Probably scaling. There are some other data mined leaks which deal with an entire mission chain with the precursor to Xenothreat. So like missions you do that would happen right before the mission, the dynamic mission for Xenothreat would spawn. And I imagine that those will have Idrises, and some of the other missions, as they get more difficulty, will have Idrises and stuff as they can expand the universe to 4.0. We'll talk about it a little bit. So goes the biz. It's how things work. And Star Citizen's unusual because usually this is both bad and good. In most gaming companies, you usually work on one project for 4, 6, 8. Modern games are taking more like 8 to 10 years. So that's still a long time, but usually once you get to like 8 to 10 year mark, you move on to a new project, or you leave that company and you go to another company so you can get something fresh. So you have more opportunities, and every time you leave a company, you go to another company, you can get more money, and that kind of thing. And it's been a long time. Like, it's been 11, 12 years, and I think Todd's been around there for almost that long. So it makes sense. Any news on who live game director will be? I don't know. They may have mentioned it in the Star Citizen Live, but I didn't watch that yet. So nope, we haven't watched ISE yet. Paul, playing Helldivers 2 with my fiance and brother, we are all kind of hooked now. It is so good. It is so good. Helldivers 2 is a masterclass and a co-op shooter. And I really do hope it spawns a lot of copycats. This is so good. Because there's a lost art to co-op shooters. I was a big fan of Army of Two when that came out. Even though it was more of a 2 co-op, but Left 4 Dead, those sorts of shooters, you don't see a lot of them. It's either go big, like with 16 plus players, or tiny, PvP focused stuff. And there is definitely a niche for a PvE co-op experience that has these sorts of difficulty ramps. So. It's in it. Helldivers isn't fun solo, even with randoms. I've heard it's pretty fun solo. I've heard it's just can be frustrating solo at higher difficulties. Yeah, no, I know Dell's done solo. I know Tree Sand's done solo. You just need to play a different style. You need to learn how to play the game I don't want to be like, you suck. It's more like the devs have very specifically designed the game where there are correct and incorrect ways to play the game, which sucks. I don't think that's great game design, but I can't deny that it is absolutely addictively fun. Who was live game director? Todd Pappy was. Yeah, they definitely have. They've definitely been manipulating stratagems and the things that are happening. So it needs melee. They have melee. It has melee, Omega. Who patched Pappy? What? Poached Pappy? I don't know. I don't think Pappy was poached because it says on his social media apparently he was available to work. So I think it's just he needed to move because he's lived in Frankfurt for decades now, and apparently he's now living in Washington. So it sounds like he just had to move. Might be a family thing. Might be I don't know, and I'm not going to go into any details until Pappy wants to talk about it himself because quite frankly, none of our fucking business. Yeah, that'd be my guess too. Treat. Yeah, according to social media, he's open to work, so no one poached him. Hey, Jail. Pappy seems like a private guy. I think Pappy is, from my brief interaction with him, he's very business. I don't say private, but he's very business. Like he's all business when he's dealing with stuff. So I imagine that he keeps his work life and his home life separate.
You can take away my spaceship.
But I don't know him that well.
You can take away my space suit. You can even take away my space
Which is kind of different
lasers.
from Sean Tracy, because I know Sean Tracy is just
But you
a
can
goof.
never, ever take away my space game. But you can never.
Buster the Destro
Ever.
just got a sub from Eris
Take
Red
away my
Tide.
space
Eris Red Tide
game.
gifted a tier 1 sub to Buster the Destroyer. They have given 62 gift subs in the channel.
All right, I'm going to turn that off. I think I can at least. Because I don't have it set up. Thank you, Mr. Gold Ember, for gifting 10 memberships on YouTube. You absolute mad lad. And I see you, Joseph Baker. I'm gonna answer that here in a moment. And thank you so much to Iris for gifting that sub to Buster. You're both very important puppers, very impressive busters. You rock. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. Generally speaking, CIG hires internally. They like to promote from inside rather than hire outside, though they've done that in the past. Thank you so much there, Mr. Gold Ember, for that. That was just so much. And Joseph Baker asks, are megastructures like the Hurston Pyramid thing rare in the verse? Depends on where you are. Like, I wouldn't say that you see a ton of those megastructures in, like, most systems, but like, Terra Tower is a megastructure, which is in Terra. I imagine there are some megastructures in places like Sol. The more settled systems and the more like core worlds of the UEE probably have megastructures. We also have, of course, Synth World, which is itself a megastructure, but they're in Halo Gates, yeah. I'm just glad when I passed Pappy and Citizen, I told them as I walked by a hot dog costume and myself a giant fan. I'm the only one here supposed to be hot, Pappy. He looked at me like, excuse me? Goddamn. Yes, breakball. Oh, the problem is I haven't set up my YouTube. I need to spend, like, this weekend, some part-time this weekend, just going through all of my alerts and fixing all of my alerts, setting up the background properly and all that kind of stuff, so. I'll get that done at some point. I wonder if they'll hire... Oh, yeah. All right, so I haven't done the ISC yet. I will be bringing that up right now, though, because... gonna watch this. But I have a question, chat. This is a serious question, and I want to hear your feedback, especially for those of you on YouTube. Should I start doing recordings of me reacting, live reactions to ISC? Everyone else does it. And I tend to not try to do that. I try to do more kind of like my actual, like, what are these called? Capsules. Are more structured in these sorts of ideas. But it is one of those things that I tend to not fully do. I kind of like leave that for the live channel. But I also know that a lot of people would like to watch the sections that get pulled out and stuff like that. So. Solid point, dub question. But in my defense, it was loaded because I was hoping it would be internal. Huh? What? YouTube reaction stream, hot tub reaction streams, fucked reactions. If you can't make a react face work with the thumbnail. So the reason why I do a lot of the capsules the way that I do is because so many people want the information that I pull out of the live streams, but don't want to sit through 4 hours to find that information. And YouTube does reward for posting stuff. I don't like, if I'm going to do reactions to ISC, I am not going to do what everyone else does. I'm going to analyze what I'm hearing and that kind of stuff. So it's more of a watch, breakdown, compared to what we've done, similar to how I do like the readings of the monthly reports. The pipe. Like, okay, this is cool because, yeah, exactly. That's kind of the idea. You know, the stuff I do, how I do it. I'm not going to sit here and go, that's really cool, man. I'm not going to sit here eating potato chips and doing nothing. Do I have any new lures coming up? I've got a couple. So I've worked out with my editor, Uri, to have them do some. So basically, I'm giving Uri one episode, regular episode of of lore stuff per month, and then once per quarter, I'm gonna have him do the complete history of Star Citizen. So it's gonna come out once every 2 to 3 months, and so that Uri can do those fairly quickly, but they have families, they have children, they have other jobs that they do, so it's not the only one. And I mean, I do pay them. I don't pay them enough. I'd like to pay them more if I can, but I have to make more money to do this. So the goal being that Uri will do one kind of regular video, lore video. I record it, edit it, do a whole thing, or record it and write it and record it, and then I send it to them and they edit it. And then I do like 2 or 3 a month is ideally. And that way I can kind of do some backups. So the one that Uri is going to be working on right now is the Santokai, the history of that. And then I've got this weekend I'm going to finish writing, recording, and begin editing the, oh gosh, what is it called? The UEE, doctrine, naval doctrine video. It's 30 fucking minutes long. So it's the complete history of their doctrine, how it evolved, all that kind of stuff. And then from there, if I get that done next week, I'll release it early to backers, and then kind of to backers to Patreons and such, and then everybody else will get it a little bit later on of that weekend, next weekend. So. Reaction videos are a lazy and often fake content release. Nice. I watch him at work and helps pass the time, doing an amazing job explaining. Thank you.
Hey, a tip!
Wild underscore super chatted $1.99. Some money to pay them more.
Some money to pay them more. Thank you so much for that, Wildly Carity. Means a lot. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this. I'm going to explain what I'm doing. I'm going to run it as an experiment and see if people like it. And then I will also release the monthly report so that I have both, like, 2 videos releasing at the per week sort of thing. And then we'll see how it goes from there. So, all right, let's do this. Oh, hello. Welcome to another Office Hours. Capsule. That's right, Capsule. This is a small section of my Office Hours live stream where I kind of snip it out from the live stream to give it to you so y'all can watch it so you don't have to watch a huge live stream. Though I would love to have you join us live at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive. Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Remember correctly? Right? Join these wonderful folks here who will tell you that it's pre-recorded because they're mean. And yeah, we'll kind of talk about lore and news and all sorts of things. So for those of you who don't know, I have been watching ISC's live with the Office Hours, with chat, since I've started doing this. It's been part of the things along with my monthly reports and reactions to other things, or more like kind of read-throughs of progress trackers and such. I just haven't put my own reactions to the monthly reports, or not to reports, to the ISCs on YouTube before. So this is an experiment to see if people like this. So if you do enjoy this, make sure you're hitting that like button, subscribe for more content, and hit the bell icon to be notified when these release. I do want to know in the comments below as well if you like this or not, because I'm not a big fan of reaction content myself. But so I'd like to think of this as a live analysis, which I can get wrong sometimes, and always correct me if I do. But I want to kind of try to do this more often, but just playing around, see what this comes up. So without any further ado, let's look at ISC for which was released on February 15th, 2024.
At CitizenCon 2952, we introduced the concept of distribution centers, these enormous terrestrial microcosms of Star Citizen's entire FPS experience. And since that time, we've intermittently followed along with their progress as they make their way to the persistent universe in the upcoming Alpha 323. And with that milestone approaching in just the next few months, let's dive underground one more time and see where they're at now, and discuss a little more about what you'll be doing once you get inside. What are distribution centers?
It's a super basic question, but I've got to unravel about 2 years worth of development time in order to answer it.
So a distribution center is a colossal hub that an organization owns that they distribute goods for, and this could be commodities themselves or stuff that they're making.
They're very big locations on the ground. They're a hive of activity. But you can also go there and cause some chaos as well.
To the player, depending on what faction it is, it's still going to be a means to way of getting different types of missions.
We don't want you to go to this location and be the only person there doing a thing. In some locations, you're going to find that you're just doing a delivery mission, you're hauling some cargo out there, you're dropping it off, and you're getting your fee for doing that. But while that's happening, another player could be infiltrating it, they could be assassinating a VIP in there.
They provide a large variety of gameplay, anything to bombing runs.
This is gonna end in tears, CIG. You're gonna say this player needs to deliver this box to this distribution center, and this other player needs to bomb that distribution center. What? That sounds like a terrible idea. I mean, exciting, but also terrible. This is going to end terribly. Oh, man. Oh, hopefully they have better balance, but yeah. That, on paper, that sounds cool, but knowing this community for 5 minutes, no, I know this is bad. This is really bad. But I wanted to pause as well and kind of mention that these are like, if you looked back here, I'm going to kind of roll back a little bit to kind of show you this. So you saw this. Notice how this looks very familiar if you've been following Star Citizen a while. This is something that a lot of players have pointed out, a lot of content creators have pointed out, but I think bears repeating. Originally, these were called the medium UGFs, or underground facilities. The current UGFs we have, which a lot of players call bunkers, are small UGFs, underground facilities. So they've changed the name from UGF to distribution center. And again, these were mediums. They were supposed to be larger ones. So this is kind of an example of CIG has sort of evolved the idea and the gameplay purpose of these facilities as they went forward. So it sounds like these are basically hubs of content going forward.
First-person combat,
That's just
theft, you name it.
A whole quagmire of different things going on at any one time.
Basically a microcosm for all the FPS-related gameplay in the universe.
What's your favorite thing about the distribution centers?
They're nearly done.
You look so tired.
So at CitizenCon, we showed you what is going on at these locations, but you want to know what's actually coming in 3.23, so let me tell you. We're going to have multiple DCs throughout the Stanton system. Each one of those is going to be owned by different brands. Some of them are going to be friendly towards you. Some of them, they're going to be hostile towards you. At each location, you're going to have access to both sides of the building, both wings. On those wings, we have 2 landing pads and a hangar, and 2 cargo freight elevators. Plus you've got the wing itself, so all the missions that you can do outside. On the inside, you'll have access to the lobby and the rooms off that, so sleeping habs, a kitchenette, some VIP spaces, and some maintenance places in there as well, all with missions.
Below that, you're into the main body of it, which has got the central part, which is the warehouse, which is where mainly all the goods go. Branching off of that leads into 2 side roads. From there can be a mixture of rooms. It's always a cargo shop, which is a part delivery space, part canteen for the staff to use for refreshment and taking a break. Storage rooms, which are the main whole of distributing big cargo boxes, which have to be used to be picked up via a tractor beam.
There are worker rest areas, there are security areas, side rooms.
And a side road, which is more like a little maintenance area, but it does have an underfloor, again with the ventilation access. That's on the inside. Branching out from that as well, there are 2 wings. Each one comes equipped with a cargo area, a shipping depot, and security door than the outside.
Hopefully enough content for you to get your teeth into in this kind of initial release.
So it looks like it's fairly packed with stuff. The one concern I do have is a lot of that sounds like passageways rather than content. Like, yeah, you want to build an area that has obvious like security and like entryways and, you know, driving in and out and, you know, kind of give a reason for ground vehicles. But if you're doing any kind of major cargo heist or movement, you're not going to use any ground vehicles that currently exist in game because they wouldn't work. So unless 3.23 is going to have some like big major cargo transport vehicles, a lot of this is going to be you figuring out ways of finagling your ship into an area so that you can pick up and drop off stuff more efficiently. So, it's good, and but it's, as they said, it's a starter sort of thing. So,
Can you bring vehicles inside?
To the outside wings, yes, but you can't drive them into the actual center, no.
No.
Did he just say what I think he said? Did he just say that we can't do something in Star Citizen? CIG. Come here. Okay. Come here. They're real close, all right? Do you understand who your fans are? Do you realize what you've just done? You have awoken a sleeping giant that is the Star Citizens community as ability to just screw with all of your plans.
Sound really confident about it. Why can't you take vehicles inside?
Because we blocked them off.
How'd you block them?
All odds.
Vehicle force field?
All odds.
You're telling me there's no way a player is going to be able to tractor beam a vehicle over those ballers and get a vehicle inside?
I would like to say no.
Backers, you know better. The challenge is made. Get the vehicles in there.
So what will bring players to the distribution centres will depend on the type of player, as we want to give variety, depending if you're an aggressive player or a non-aggressive player, and or lawful or unlawful. It's for the 4 types of player that exist in the persistent universe. So there's aggressive lawful, unaggressive lawful, aggressive unlawful, and unaggressive unlawful.
Which one are you?
I quite like being aggressive. If you're going to go in, you might as well go in hard, right? I'm nice in real life, so I can be aggressive unlawful in the verse.
Just killing random dock workers.
For aggressive lawful players, you might get a mission where you have to go in and defend one of the distribution centers from a hostile attack by outlaw gangs.
You could receive a distress call from the owner of the distribution center being informed that a gang is trying to acquire goods from a certain section of it, say the storage room.
The player will arrive. They will make their way to the location which is under attack. They will go in, they will see a battle underway between defending forces and the attackers, and they will join sides with the defending forces to take out the attackers. Those attackers might come in waves, they might have big heavies with them, they might have bigger weaponry.
These are new techniques.
But you will join together, possibly with friends, to take out this big assaulting force. Lawful non-aggressive players might want to do something more like delivery or hauling. It's a distribution center. So you'll be able to come in, land, load your ship with all the various cargo, depending on what kind of distribution center it is, and take it where it needs to go, whether that's another distribution center or somewhere else completely different.
The plan from doing an internal delivery will be using a hover trolley to distribute one cargo or multiple cargo boxes from one section in the distribution center to another. They really are big enough to do an entire mission without ever leaving. You could be doing a delivery from one room, let's say the storage room, up to the lobby.
For an aggressive illegal player, you might do an all-out assault on the distribution center. You can fly in, the location security will kick in, so you'll be trespassing, you'll get shot at by turrets. If you manage to land, you will infiltrate the facility. All guards will be hostile to you, and you can go in, you can, if it's an assassination mission, you can go in, take out a VIP. If it's a theft mission, you can run a heist, go in, rob the place, get out again.
Each distribution center, especially the bigger company ones, would have armed guards at least on site. They'd also have turrets mobilized around the outside, so you would have to, coming in by air is very dangerous because you would be distinctly seen as trespassing, so each security zone around a distribution center protects it, even from the air, not just the ground. So for non-aggressive, unlawful theft missions would be a prime example of you sneaking into distribution center to avoid being detected by security.
Is stealth optional, CIG? Are these stealth missions optional, or do we get spotted and we lose? Because if stealth is optional, then stealth is then non-aggressive, unlawful is just going to be aggressive but with extra steps.
Acquire goods unlawfully.
You can basically do a stealth version of the hostile mission. So instead of it being an all-out assault and going in guns blazing, maybe you find a back route in, maybe you sneak in past guards, make your way to the location without being detected. If you get the item that you need to steal, you can turn around, make your way out, and hope they don't find you.
I'm hearing can,
For
not
players
must.
that don't have a mission, the response that you get when you approach a distribution center is going to depend on which distribution center it is.
So we're in agreement, right, chat, that that there are 3 missions. There's aggressive, lawful, unaggressive, lawful, which is just transport missions, and then aggressive, unlawful. And there's just 2 different versions of aggressive, unlawful, which is going in loud and going in stealthy.
Some are going to welcome visitors. They'll be quite happy to see you. Others definitely don't want any visitors at all.
So depending on the type of facility, some public ones, and you'll be able to come in and just use it as a social space. Other higher security level ones, you would not have or be granted access without being granted a mission. So besides missions, if a player decides to go like full chaotic evil inside a distribution center, they can go in full guns blazing, but they're going to be met with a lot of resistance. So you're going to need to see some pretty, like, a heavily armored.
CIG has a lot of confidence in their security systems this time. There's a lot of confidence.
Ship to deal with the anti-air guns and a lot of firepower when you get inside, because there's a load of guards to deal with.
So a big driving force behind the distribution centers is to really bring players together in all different kinds of ways. So maybe you've got somebody there who's running a delivery mission, and at the same time, you've got a group of people coming in to raid the place and steal a bunch of stuff. They all get caught up together in a whole big mess, and the hope is that it's a fun, exciting, and probably quite chaotic experience.
We want it so that as you're playing it,
I forgot to turn off those for the recording. Sorry. I'm not used to this. Thank you.
through, yeah, other things are happening around you, things that you sort of want to get involved in yourself.
I hope the players perceive it as mainly for the variety, to give the players the choice to, like, just to lean into, do they want to be aggressive or do they want to be passive? That we know different players like playing different ways, so we're hoping this variety in the distribution centre gives the players the access whether they want to play that aggressive or passive fantasy inside the verse.
Of course, this is the first drop of the distribution centres and development will be ongoing. We're shooting for a healthy variety of distribution centres for 3.23 and more to come as we approach 4.0.
So at some point after 3.23 and into the future, I don't know when, we are going to be looking at the end game stuff that you want to play, and that's going to be in the form of raids.
Raid!
Raids! Don't put that in.
Oh, we're definitely leaving that in.
Raid! Shadow Legends.
So, what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that distribution centers will be home to missions and gameplay of every sort, that Alpha 3.23 will mark their arrival, that the much-anticipated raid gameplay first discussed at CitizenCon will follow at some point thereafter, and that if you're the ISC gameplay capture team working in builds weeks and sometimes even months before Evocati, you may find that the planets of Pyro and Stanton have loaded into the same physical space and turned themselves inside out, when all you're trying to do is make your weekly show. Don't worry, they're having the time of their lives. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next week. Like that.
All right, so I know there's an exit here, but we'll kind of go over this real quickly. And then kind of nice power answer at the end. So a couple things we can pull out from that. Number one, CIG is insane. Because I think CIG fundamentally doesn't understand that players that are box mission runners, generally speaking, don't want to stumble into the same place as a raid. You're forcing PvE into a PvP experience, or PvP into a PvE experience, and that's not going to go over well. That's a concern of mine. Hopefully CIG will experience how bad it is, and then they'll adjust it as need be. What was the other thing they talked about? Pull back a little bit. They have very high confidence in their abilities to for their actual AI to function, which we'll see with 3.23 if that happens. The problem is even right now it's a dice roll whether you get SEAL Team 6 or Paul Blart Mall Cop. And in chat saying it's a PvP game, always has been. Okay, I'm gonna have to address this as well. Star Citizen is not a PvP game. Get your mad out in the comments below. I don't care. Star Citizen is a PvE game with PvP in it. If Star Citizen was a PvP game, there would be no players, or there'd be no NPCs, it would just be players. It is a PvE game that has PvP in it. As a result, you need to kind of balance the game so that people who want to just enjoy PvE can play the PvE without as much risk. I'm not saying no risk, but not as much risk. Whereas if you wanted, whereas players who are okay with mixing it up can go to those same places. It definitely needs to be, there definitely needs to be kind of a barrier between those two. But, you know, it's that sort of kind of, this sort of thing. So, yeah. So, hopefully they find a good balance between those two, where, like, you know, going to distribution centers that are more prone to being raided or have more prone to have those sorts of experiences versus very highly tightly controlled areas where mostly you're just dropping off pocket packages and picking them up, kind of stuff. So, yeah, the last, there's actually two other comments in there which are kind of important to point out. Number one is they mentioned 2.3 and then 4.0, which is an interesting comment because that at least implies, and of course I may be reading too much into this, that CIG doesn't plan on having a 2.4. That they plan on rolling directly into a 4.0. Which sort of tracks with what I've kind of found out on my own. That CIG wants to have 3.23 kind of be that branch is the last branch before 4.0. So we might have a 3.24, but it's just going to be 3.23, you know, extended. And what's the next one? The fact that the gameplay capture team is running into like normal problems with Pyro and Stanton merging. I don't know what branch they play on. They're probably doing the dev branch, but that seems at least to me to indicate that they're actively in the process of trying to bring 4.0 out. It's no longer just we're working on Pyro. They're now smashing these two systems together and saying, no, Keith. So, like, they've actually building it out the way it's supposed to be in game rather than being Pyro and Stanton individual. So that's probably good. Now let's get this little last palate cleanser and then kind of wrap it up.
Now I've had the time of my life, though I never felt like this before. Yes, I swear it's the truth, and I owe it all to you, Booch.
That's awesome. I like that. So, yeah. Overall, it's a good ISC. I think the time will tell about the distribution centers. I am glad that it's not just on Microtech, because my initial thought was it was just going to be on Microtech, and that's the only thing we have. They seem to imply that there's going to be more. We don't know how many. So we'll have to see how this works. As for 3.23 and 3.24, we'll kind of have to go it as we go, because CIG has said that they're releasing 3.23. They're shooting for April, which is Q2. Doesn't mean that we're necessarily going to have the only that, or doesn't mean we're going to have more. It's kind of hard to tell what the plan is right now, and hopefully we'll get more information as we go. And as always, I want to hear your thoughts about any of this, and if you like this kind of thing, in the comments down below. It helps me out to know if I should be recording these or not. And yeah, like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. All right, be right back, chat. Oof.
Good news, everyone! I love them.
2 words. Distress bacon.
Drugs.
Barcelona! I love them. Barcelona! To democracy! To democracy! Barcelona! Barcelona! Weapons free, y'all.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Oh, right, back. Be destroyed.
I love democracy. I'm flying.
Okay, so Pablos, I don't want to go into too much depth, because this is a whole conversation in and of itself. But the reality is that CIG has to walk a very fine line. And I've heard so many people in the PvP side of the community lose their minds every time something happens. They're like, Star Citizen is dead to me. It's dead. We're going to fail without PvP. The reality is, if you look at most successful games, more games are successful without PvP than with PvP. In fact, I'd argue that there are games that had PvP added to them, which ruined the game experience and caused the downfall of those games intentionally. The problem is that the PvP community has been and always will be very toxic. There are definite elements of toxicity because it's all about skill. It's about being the best. There's a lot of machismo and bravado. It's very tribal, very spheric, which is fine with the right kind of community, managing those sorts of things. But this is video games. People tend to take things way too seriously.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
However, this hasn't been bad. I've done PvP myself. It's just important to remember that Star Citizen, as its core, is designed around the always present threat of PvP. Without there being without PvP being the only way to play or the main. The best way I do it. Oh, are people still? I can't hear it because I've muted it on my end. I'll turn them off. You heard one? Okay, so I'll go it over again. I've turned it off so no one can do that. Effectively, as I'll say again, there's nothing wrong with PvP. PvP is fine, and Star Citizen does have PvP in it. However, PvP is not the focus of Star Citizen, and I'd argue should never be the focus. There are plenty of games out there that have, in fact, I'd say more successful games that are more successful without PvP than with PvP. you know, most MMOs tend to move away from PvP and more towards PvE because they can kind of curate the experience and kind of have people enjoy them. And I'd argue that there are cases where PvP was more supported. When PvP became more supported, those games failed because they became more focused on the PvP, on the shveddy tryhard side, rather than the other side. So the problem is that at its core, Star Citizen is a PvE experience with the threat, the ever-present threat of PvP. And Star Citizen will never be balanced correctly around PvP. And I've heard a lot of times players in the Star Citizen community, PvP players in the Star Citizen community, say effectively, Star Citizen is ruining PvP, and because they're ruining PvP, will never work or whatever. Like there's too many. I've heard that so many times, and it's never happened. So, while PvP is important, and I know plenty of Star Citizen devs are interested in PvP, it comes down to the same problem that I see so many PvP people who want to be pirates, who are like, oh, I'm going to pirate other players. And my response is, you probably aren't. Like, you're probably going to be pirating NPCs. And their immediate response is, well, that's boring. It's like, that's Star Citizen. That's how it's supposed to be. There's supposed to be like a 9-to-1 NPC to player ratio. Players are supposed to be only funneled into very specific locations where you're going to experience more PvP. And even in places like Pyro, PvP is going to have consequences. Consequences which will make it harder to play the game. Star Citizen is doing everything it can to encourage player interaction while also ensuring that the kind of player interaction that can become the most toxic is also the one that is going to make it more difficult. The problem is right now is that CIG doesn't have those systems in place, and it will be a while before they do. So the most successful game is Fortnite, and they added PvP and made money hand over fist. Fortnite is an FPS like shooter. What is it? Like a survival shooter. They didn't add PvP. When they added PvP, it was to capitalize on a trend that was very popular. Star Citizen adding PvP will not make it more money, because what made Fortnite money was the fact that it was a battle royale game. I believe it was also free to play, but then too. The reality is that the most successful PvP games like Warzone and like Fortnite, I think, are all free to play. And that's why they're successful. It's not because they're PvP, it's because they're free. That's why. Because they have such a low barrier to entry, anyone can play it. And so if you even get like a certain percentage of those people to pay for anything, you're going to make fuck tons of money. Rinse the work organ. Hey, Happy Rob. Turn back on the sound effect. So, I'm not saying, and I'm not here to shit on PvPers, because I know plenty of people who are PvP. I do plan on learning how to PvP and dogfight. So, can you hear me now? You hear me now? Oop. I don't know how it just muted on itself. I didn't hit anything, so. I plan on learning how to PvP myself because it's an important skill. But I do think that there's going to be a reckoning. There's going to be a situation where a lot of players into the PvP community, just like there's going to be a lot of players in Star Citizen in general, as the game gets towards its future iteration, towards what CIG is planning on doing, they're going to end up becoming disenfranchised and not happy with the direction Star Citizen's going. I've seen so many generations of PvPers do the exact same thing, move on to whatever game they think is the next best game, only for that game to fail or to die out, and then either come back to Star Citizen or move on to the next game. Star Citizen, at its core, will never be a successful PvP experience. The place for something like that is Arena Commander. That is where you have the better chances of good PvP experience. But the verse is always going to be dominated by NPCs, reputation. There's going to be so many other factors which will make it harder to have that, immersive or emergent PvP experience all the time. And, you can already see it. Look at master modes. Look how many people in the PvP community are losing their fucking minds because they don't like master modes. So we're going to receive 3.23 before Invictus and then 3.24 about July. Possibly. Honestly, based off of what CIG's been saying, I don't think they're going to do a 3.24. I think they're going to do a 3.23 with a bunch of .1, .2, .3 patches, and then we're going to get a 4.0 in September. So we're going to get a 3.23. Basically, what I'm saying is 3.23 is going to be the 3.17 of this year. It's going to just stay on 3.23 until they get 4.0 out. I think CIG's planning for 4.0 to first wave to drop before CitizenCon. And I think CIG is also planning for 4.0 to release all PTU by CitizenCon. Thank you, TK Rex. I think large scale battles will be most PvP. I don't think so. I think there will be large scale battles, but I think a lot of people are overemphasizing because there's no reason to have large scale battles unless you have something you're fighting over. Just fighting people for the sake of fighting people won't happen. You have to have something worth fighting over. And generally speaking, we don't really have that. I don't think CIG really has an idea behind it yet. So the more large scale battles are going to be directed behind PvE. .3 and 4.0 won't be near as bad as 3.18. I agree.
Hey, a tip.
TK Rex super chatted $2. I think large scale battles will be most PvP.
So unless there's actually something to fight, there's really not going to be like a lot of that. There's a lot of stuff that Star Citizen has to develop into, and before I get anybody going into the comments being like, or in the chat being like Star Citizen's been in development for for 17,000 years and it's still not done. You're talking about it needs more time. When is it going to be done? When the Earth explodes from supernova? I couldn't fucking tell you. All I can tell you is the facts. The reality is that Star Citizen is starting to come into its prepubescent age. It's becoming that annoying 12 and 13-year-old kid. That's what it is. It's not even into its teenage years, but it might enter once we hit 4.0, but we don't know when that's going to happen or how bad it's going to be. There's so many unknowns that it's hard to tell, and CIG seems very reticent to start adding significant content until they get most of the background based content worked out. Maybe a fight over a caterpillar full of drugs from a drug lord. That's a price players would fight for. A prize players would fight for. They'd have to A, know where it is, B, be able to pull it out of quantum at the right point, C, fight it, and that's still not a large scale fight. That's still medium. A couple of fighters, maybe have one or two big content, because if you get too many people trying to escort a large ship like that, you're dealing with a loss of money. They can only escort, they only pay enough escorts for as much as they're going to make money, and they still need to make profit at the end of it. That still seems more like a PvE over a PvP experience. Make small moon bases worth fighting for, but how? Like that's a question. Like, how would you make that worth fighting for? It'd have to be worthwhile in the sense of time and energy investment to be able to make money or reputation or something, because small moon bases just aren't worth it unless there's like some major payout. Just like Elite Dangerous Civil War events, we show up, pick a side, then had to fight on opposing NPCs and players that joined them. Yeah, I think we'll see stuff like that, but that's still heavily focused on the PvE experience rather than PvP. It's PvE enabling PvP. It's Titanfall, where Titanfall is a PvP game, but there's tons of PvE kind of like little bots that run around that you can kill for points, and rather than focus on the main players, and that's the balance that CIG has to strike. I think we could see a major PvP battle over the control of a few Bengal ships in the verse. Yeah, I could see something like that, but that's like a very one-off experience. We're not going to see thousands of Bengals. If I were CIG and I was actually trying to figure out PvP, like large battles PvP, I would have to come up with some reason to fight PvP over. And one of the best ways of doing so is to centralize a location that is controlled by an NPC faction that will give you benefits like reputation or credits, maybe both, as long as you control it, but no NPCs will be present or minimal NPCs will be present. It's still going to be focused on an NPC sort of running things, but like, I don't know, like an abandoned station pyro, and it's being fought over by a bunch of different gangs. And you throw in your lot with an NPC, like with the Fire Rats. You go there to claim the system, claim for the Fire Rats, and if you do, the Fire Rats will give you reputation and credits for doing so, as long as you hold on to that station. Once you lose that station, once another group comes in and claims it, then you will lose the credits, or you'll no longer gain reputation. You won't necessarily, maybe not lose reputation, but you gain reputation for so long by being part of a mission to take it. It's still mission based, and you'd have counter missions and stuff like that, but it wouldn't be the organic missions that you people want, the organic kind of emergent gameplay that you think of. So distribution centers could work. I think space stations is probably what you're looking for more often if you're dealing with big capital class combat. So. Like Jumptown or Ghost Hollow. Yeah, but also having reputation on the line and having it last beyond just the initial beyond just like the initial wave, if that makes sense. So like, yeah, like a Spartan's talking about like some sort of resource that is only available in that one location, or that is super rare or super valuable, that, you know, maybe a factory that produces them, that sort of thing. Hey, I think I muted everything because I was doing stuff, but welcome everyone from Local Stream. My name is Paul, Berserker01, Batman's Trailer, your humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub, your space bar at the integration. This Twitch, the universe, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. How y'all doing? How you doing, Logan? How goes the war on the front, Helldiver? Oh, you're playing Helldivers. Oh, we are diving tomorrow. We are definitely diving tomorrow. Normal time as well, so. Crash alien ships. I mean, yeah, there has to be something worth fighting over. But again, it has to be, you can't really have it be organic. We're talking about like PvP versus PvE in Star Citizen. And my kind of argument is that Star Citizen will live and die by its PvE experience rather than its PvP experience. And that Star Citizen's really a PvE game with the constant threat of PvP rather than being a PvP game with PvE in it. So. Yeah, so basically what we're going to see in terms of PvP content is that PvP content will be based around PvE events. Jumptown or Ghost Hollow are good examples, but there needs to be something beyond just resources and credits, because once everyone has money, they don't care. So you need to make it care. So things like reputation will be important, especially if it's going to be, or super rare resources you need for crafting. There needs to be a reason to fight over it. And the thing is that Jumptown is boring when nobody else cares. So you need to have a PvE element where if nobody shows up, the PvE element will show up, or even if two people do show up, other PvE elements will show up. So like I said, like an abandoned station in Pyro, that is being fought over by different gangs. You show up backing one gang, you have PvE kind of allies, you go in, you conquer it, and then every so often a NPC group will come in to try to take it away from you, and you have to defend it. And if you defend it, you gain points and like reputation and credits or rare resources or other kind of benefits from that. And then players can join those factions' assaults. But then that's still PvE focused with PvP in it, you know? Dark Age of Camelot has the Dungeon Darkness Falls. Factions had to fight to take it over so that they could quest in it to do the boss fights and get the rare unique loot. And the kicker, you could lock out the other factions until they fought over to take control. Yeah, see something like that. I could borrow from Star Wars Galaxies, a game I sorely missed. There's actually a lot of people in CIG development team who are big fans of Galaxies, so I wouldn't be surprised if CIG doesn't take some cues from that. They use fluctuating weekly resource system where valuable resources move from week to week. Yeah, I can see stuff like that, for sure. It's happening. It's starting to really seem like a tech demo. It's turning out to be a foolish type of game. I hate it when people call Star Citizen a tech demo. It's not a tech demo. It's an alpha. It's just not a complete alpha. That's all. I don't think we're going to see too much randomized resources because that would break the game a little bit too much. It would make people like the immersion would be off. But respawning resources could definitely be coming in there stuff. Not a tech demo of an alpha. It's an alpha. It's just an early alpha. So a rundown player controlled distribution center, not necessarily player controlled. It's just like if players back a faction to control it. Like when we get 4.0 coming out, that is when Star Citizen has finished alpha, or is beyond alpha, I guess you could say. And because the next step after 4.0, the 4.0 branch would be beta. Playable now, yeah. CIG's tagline for their patches is playable now. Technically, they are playable. Not full of bugs, but playable. Wouldn't call Star Citizen beta until we have game loops, repair, hacking. I mean, I think once Star Citizen has most of its basic foundational backing done, then it would be in beta. And its basic foundational backing is the last two things that really need to be put in are this server meshing and dynamic economy. That's it. Beyond that, it's just more of adding content. We have technically repair, hacking, and science, and all of those things. They exist. They're just not in their final versions. So I would definitely be prepared to see a Star Citizen say, we're in beta, and having a bunch of stuff that's still work in progress kind of placeholders which haven't been replaced yet, because that's what they'll do. As long as the back end is the basic foundational tech is in, that's kind of what they do. Because technically we have repair. It's just basic and janky and only works for like surface level stuff. I 100% believe that CIG will say polish phase rather than calling it a beta. They'll say it's polish phase or whatever. Star Citizen Polish 1.0. We have exploration. It's just not, you don't get money for it. I think they'll eventually trash their modded CryEngine for Real Engine 5, or at this point, Real Engine 7. Kappa. Unreal Engine is a fantastic engine. I'm not going to go too much into this because I'll go into a rant. But Unreal Engine is a fantastic engine for small development teams without huge resources to produce games that are fantastically good looking, that have lots of features to them. They don't have to put a lot of effort into to still get like high quality out of. So it has its own problems, but like Pal World is a great example, and so is Helldivers. They're both made on Unreal 5 with smaller dev teams, and they look fantastic. They have very good They have very good visuals to them. Pal World is a lot more kind of basic compared to Helldivers, but it really leans into its gameplay more than its visuals, and it really shows the robustness of Unreal 5 because it doesn't look bad. It just is stylized. And that's the case with like a lot of Unreal games, and that's the real key with Unreal 5, is that Unreal 5 is allowing for more higher quality content to come out of smaller dev studios that wouldn't have had the money to do so in the first place. Star Citizen, come hell or high water, is always going to be better off for basically building their own engine out of the CryEngine, because they can design to do whatever they want it to do. There's just no point in for them moving over to Unreal 5 at this point. Is it much asked down the line that we have our character and have them cry on the shoulder, the cry in the shower of your ship going from Microtech to Crusader? No, I'm sure it'll happen. The development of natural selection 2 is a great example of why it's best to build your own engine. They wasted half their dev time working on an engine that still didn't work and had to start over. And I think what you're failing to account for, Paul, is that Unreal Engine 5 demos look pretty, therefore best engine. I mean, StarEngine looks pretty. It looks beautiful. That tech demo for the technical demonstration of the StarEngine from CitizenCon got a lot of attention. The future of gaming, after all. But like all engines, like Unreal 5 has got its limitations. It will always have its limitations. No engine is perfect. They're all built to do very specific things very well, and they're going to sacrifice other things for it. Even outside of gaming, I use to study mechanical drafting. They all mod the ever-living heck out of their design software to fit the company. I mean, Disney uses Unreal 5 to cut back on post-processing or post-production. Like a lot of The Mandalorian, the first season of Mandalorian was done with Unreal 5 rather than on location or behind green screens. They just projected Unreal 5 environments, which look damn near photorealistic, onto a stage. So like it's filmed. It looks like they're in a location because they have the lighting proper and they have Unreal 5 demo running in the background. So as happy and hyped for Star Citizen, I really look forward to fantasy titles like at least StarEngine in the future. I just imagine Skyrim like RPG with a full planet procedural tech. I don't know if that'll necessarily work. All games at least really. Liberty! For Super Earth! Yes. How you doing there, Fair Assault? Welcome from Fair Assault Stream. My name is Paul Berserker, one Batman Shelley. Your humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub, your space bar at the end of the universe. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. How did you enjoy Helldivers there, Fair Assault? I'm looking for this game called Star Citizen because I'm tired and done with trite, cliche, unoriginal fantasy. There's loads of new ideas in genre, but they never make the games of them. I think with game engines like Unreal, we're probably going to start to see a lot more of those unique ideas come out. Because devs can take more of a risk. Indie devs can take more of a risk because they have a more powerful engine that has a lot of tools to help them get to that point. So. Gosh, it's a lot of fun, though there was an uncommonly large number of accidentals. That is how Helldivers works. I wouldn't really say Star Citizen's full of new ideas as far as the sci-fi genre goes, to be honest. Honestly, there just hasn't been a lot of sci-fi games that have attempted the scale of Star Citizen. Have there been space-based games? Yeah, Elite Dangerous exists. Probably the best example of like a traditional space sim. Has there been, going down on planets and exploring combined with the space? Yeah, No Man's Sky. Has there been complex economy systems? Yeah, Eve exists. It's just that Star Citizen is trying to mesh a lot of these different ideas into one thing, one specific like ball that no one's really tried because it's stupid, because it's dumb. And that's really the uniqueness of Star Citizen. But, if Star Citizen was being released in 2005, when, the meta was sci-fi shooter because of like Halo and such, then yeah, it probably wouldn't have stood out as much as it does in 2024 when, what other sci-fi games are there that have this kind of scale? Even like most games that are coming out now are because Star Citizen was successful. Things like Space Truckers exist because of that. There's tons of different freelancer-inspired games that have come out recently, like Rebel Outlaw. Remember there was Rebel Outlaw 2. Yeah, mechanically, in terms of lore setting, it's very classic, tropes rearranged, not bad. It's not super novel. Star Citizen, I'd argue that Star Citizen is becoming more of a unique game in terms of lore compared to other games. It's taking elements of the genre, and as the game is getting closer to completion, we're starting to see it a lot more fleshed out. It doesn't have a gimmick like a lot of sci-fi does, or like fantasy does. You often see like they like really lean into a gimmick, like Altered Carbon is really good. His gimmick is the stacks. Expanse, his gimmick is Game of Thrones, but in space. There's lots of like gimmicks that start off those sci-fi and fantasy kind of stories, and then you sort of evolve from there. Star Citizen's gimmick is more of its mechanics than its universe, but its universe is fairly unique compared to a lot of stuff. Rebel Galaxy, thank you. Rebel Galaxy Outlaw is what I was thinking. Thank you, Luna Maria. Yeah, Star Truckers, yeah. I don't think it's based off of Space Truckers. Truckers' gimmick was late Roman space. That was its initial basis, but it's evolved dramatically from that initial concept. That was kind of like the rough draft. But and there's still definitely some parts to it. That's kind of like the inspiration behind it. But, Tale of All is the 4th century AD. Like how, Warhammer, the fantasy and space and both fantasy and 40K are just the Holy Roman Empire, but in fantasy but in space. It's the same concept. No one would just sit there and say 40K is a bland, generic experience because it's defined a genre. But it's using a concept that was stolen from fantasy, which itself was stolen from history. So. I get what you're saying. I get the concept that Star Citizen isn't some like unique, fresh take on the sci-fi genre, but I'd argue it does have more of a unique, fresh take simply because of its depth. There's just no video games out there that have this sort of depth of lore before the game's even released. You know, outside of something like Halo or like Warcraft, or to a degree Mass Effect, but Mass Effect is, you know, mostly heavily, kind of. There's just not a ton of experience with this. Most games just try to get the experience down, to have it fun, build enough story to make it kind of context, to make the context work, and then move on, you know. If Star Citizen's late Rome, when are we getting the time Rome literally sold to the Earth around college? That's middle Roman. That was the late Roman Republic. We're talking about late Roman Empire. It's different. Problem is that none of its depth of lore is translated into the actual game at all yet, which doesn't help its perception. Yeah, no, I agree. It's one of its downsides right now, is that Star Citizen's lore is entirely based off of, you know, text files rather than the game itself. It's suffering from Destiny 1 syndrome. But look at Destiny. Destiny had a thriving, still kind of does have has a thriving lore community who are in depth and looking into the lore and background and stories and stuff like that, because it's made by Bungie, who are really good at that sort of shit. I just find it's lazy. I've heard that critique leveled at CIG in the past. That's the Star Citizen's lore is uninspired and boring, and I'm like, that's just lazy critique. Like, I can say that you're boring. It doesn't mean that I actually know who you are. Like, you know, critique is something like, Star Citizen's lore isn't in the game. It doesn't affect the game right now, so why should I give a shit about it? Or Star Citizen is still a game in development, so a lot of stuff is going to change. As a result, why should I invest myself in a lore that's just going to change in 5 years or whatever? Like, those are kind of things I could see, but just like, it's boring, it's uninspired. Like, okay, cool, nice opinion. I love Destiny lore. Yeah, but remember, Destiny 1 didn't even have like in-game lore. It was grimoires that you found on the fucking website. It was an example of like the worst thing you could do for trying to build a universe. Oh, sorry to hear about that, Alex. Thought your buddy died. So yes, but I agree. And I think the reason why is because Star Citizen just is a work in progress. And I think one of the things that is always important to point out whenever I hear kind of a lot of stuff talked about with Star Citizen is, well, this doesn't make sense, or this seems very vague. And the answer is yeah, because the lore is in alpha too. They've got the good framework in, and they have some details which won't affect the gameplay. A lot of the details that will start to impact players, like connections with NPCs or organizations, is not in, because CIG doesn't want to write that and then plug it in only for having to change it later because of how the development wants to be moved through to things. So, like Quantum Drive, like we don't know anything about Quantum Drives really. We have a handful of ideas. We know it's based off the Alcubierre drive. We know it uses Quantanium. We know that quantum fuel is derived from a transisotope, kind of a particle that's trapped by transisotope and then is refined into fuel. Do we know what that is or how that functions? No, that's all we know. And that it has a unique effect on mass, or negative mass. I think it's the negative, the negative mass, or is it negative? I think it's negative. Now, do I think that's going to be like that forever? No. As the gameplay around quantum travel and quantum repair, repair and stuff like that gets worked out, it'll flesh out. But That lore stuff really grinds me about the Nomad. Like, I know I get why it's made. I know it's not going anywhere, but I still hate it. I just hate the Gravlev's bear. There are some stupid lore. There is some stupid lore about ships. The Redeemer doesn't have lore. It is both old and new. It makes no sense. The big one that's really bad recently is I blanked it out of my brain. The Storm. The Storm makes no fucking sense. Everything about the Storm, all of its lore doesn't make any sense. Everything about its design doesn't make sense. But like from all angles, that is a bad vehicle. It seems like the lore gets pretty much is pretty much like the game. They get lost in details where people don't enjoy or get the foundation core yet. Warhammer 40k is easy to get invested in because the core is easy to grasp. I disagree. The lore is fine. There's lots of core that's easy to grasp. I can tell you the core of Star Citizen lore, and it's effectively, it is 2943, or it's the 30th century. Mankind has just emerged from a dictatorial regime and is trying to improve its own behavior. Meanwhile, a emergent threat has arrived in the galaxy and has been systematically destroying human colonies. And in the midst of all of this chaos, old enemies are still clandestinely kind of working around human interests. Old enemies kind of merged into our society are also struggling with their own identities, and sides of this human empire are starting to strain as two sides are beginning to emerge with completely different cultural ideas and ideas about the future, clashing politically. It's a universe in transition, and the death of empires is what Star Citizen's core is. That's the core. It's the world is the universe is tearing apart at the seams, and you are introduced into it. That's it. The Star Citizen is similar to 40k in that they're both set into very bleak universes. The difference is that Star Citizen's universe has hope. There is still hope in the Star Citizen universe. There are still people who want better, but political intrigue, both inside and outside the Empire, and a failure to deal with the consequences of the human dictator are causing the Empire to break apart. That's it. War never changes. Mankind has emerged from the crisis of the 3rd century, and the infrastructure of the empire is in decay over years of bumbling. Threats of barbarians lose over the west while the east rises, which is effectively the same premise as 40k. You know, humanity is beset on all sides by Xenos and traitors, and you know, there's nothing but war. Same idea. Hey, Echo Bit. Happy Xeon New Year, Cormor, and Red Festival, Paul. If you could play with an alien race, what would it be and why? The Banu or the Tavaran. If it was the Banu, because I like the Banu culture, because it's just awesome. And Tavaran are just awesome because they're easy to kind of incorporate into the universe, so. Freedom protects, yeah. There's always hope. The Emperor protects. The freedom protects, yeah. My point is that there's nothing wrong with taking inspiration from historical events to ground your universe in a sense of realism. It's how you emerge from that. That's the key. We hold the line because we've been on hold for trying to answer the call. A stupid question to anyone really, because I couldn't find the current answer on it. But with the pledge armor, is there a way to reclaim it if you die with it on? You can't retrieve it. Not until next patch. No, there's no way to reclaiming it. And the next patch isn't happening until April. History repeats itself anyways. It doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. I like that quote because it makes sense. Because you could say, it's the crisis of insert century here. The empire is surrounded by enemies on all sides, tearing apart externally from threats and internally from political intrigue. And that could describe dozens of different empires in humanity. That could describe the Han Empire. It could describe the... Oh, wait, I've got a... My camera gonna die. Hold on. So we're gonna see my camera go off. Ugh. I'll be right back. Right back. Sound alert should be on. Oof.
Weapons free, y'all.
This shit I'm out.
To democracy!
Two words.
Everybody and his dog calls himself out.
To democracy! To democracy! To democracy! To democracy! I love to democracy! To democracy! To democracy! To democracy!
Distress bacon.
Turn off sound alerts. No more fun. Hey, Dante. Thank you. As just a reminder, we are still sponsored by Factor. Factor is a fantastic service. If you haven't used it yourself, make sure you check it out. It is a service that you get meals every week on a rotating schedule. You can choose what you want and what you don't want. They send it to you once a week in kind of a refrigerated container, and then you can kind of put it in your fridge, and just takes 2 to 3 minutes in the microwave to heat it up, and you're good to go. It's fantastic for those people who are, get home from work, or you get home from school and you're just like, I'm just tired. I don't want to freaking make anything. I don't have time or energy to do it. But you don't want to go out and get food. You don't want to order food because it's too expensive. This kind of gives you a good quality meal for a decent price. It can be a little on the expensive side, but again, with my code, !Factor in chat, you can get 50% off of your first box. So that can mean upwards of like $60 off of a package with 10 meals in it, which is a fantastic deal if you're interested. I would highly suggest it. I've used it myself in the past. It's a good service, even just to check out and see if you like it. And again, yeah, you get that 50% off of when you use my code. So 80% off. You're literally eating one right now? Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a managed democracy, yeah. Out of water. Remember that they said they're coming in 3.23, can be 3.231, so it could be later. It's true, it could be. It's my solution to get food, probably, Paul, after spent money on ships. I used to love cooking. Now I have so much disdain for it. I still do it, though I'm too poor not to. I like cooking. I can have fun with it, especially with the right food. It can be really fun. A big, hearty, like Italian meal is fun. But I also don't have time to cook like that anymore. So. All right, Squadron 42 monthly report. Entertaining people is fun, with food is fun. We're going to get into the Squad 42 monthly report, read through it. Now, one of the things that's really weird is I find that a lot of people tend to not read or even pay attention to the Squadron 42 monthly report because they're like, I don't care about Squadron 42. I'm only here for Star Citizen. CIG knows this and has slipped Star Citizen things into the Squadron 42 monthly report in the past. Like I learned a lot about stuff that surprised people, like creatures being added to the game. Like a lot of the stuff that it was like, oh, well, all this stuff that's being added in 3.23, it feels like it's a lot of stuff. The stuff's gonna slip. It's like, no, all this stuff's been done in Squadron for years or in months in some cases. And they're just now being added to the verse. So it's a pretty, not simple, but it's easier than you think. You don't have to build it from the beginning. Later, Alex. Thanks for hanging out. Oh. Glancing through it real quick. That's probably what I'll make the title. Gonna be a pretty short one. It's been great hearing about their Moby Glass journey from Squadron 42 newsletter. Many people missed it. It wasn't just a smart star map. It's an FPS map, terrain map, star map, galaxy map, all in one that talks to the scale of the ground, to the galaxy scale within the server. Insane effort. Yeah, it's a lot of crazy stuff. Just joined. Hope not to detract, but I'm curious as what the first contact specifically in Star Citizen with aliens will be like, and how jarring it might be since we've been just humans all this time. Still not sure if they plan on us playing aliens. I just imagine we'll see them in Star Citizen, not just Squadron 42. Yes, so, I mean, if you're talking about, like, the lore behind First Contact, Star Citizen lore already has a lot about First Contact. If you're talking about Squadron 42, you're talking about Squadron 42 specifically, or you're talking about Star Citizen, like, in terms of players' experience? I can guarantee you that the player experience with Star Citizen, with interacting with aliens, is going to feel very different eventually. I don't think when it's first implemented, you will actually tell the difference. It's just a different skin initially. Maybe you'll get some unique dialogue from it. They'll just look weird as they're loping around. But I don't, and yeah, players will eventually be able to play as aliens. We have no idea when. Like, that's such a post-release feature, we don't even know. Question: Star maps should have its own back-end service like inventory. Star map? I think it works off that same sort of system. I'm an industrial player in Star Citizen and could not give less fuck about Squadron 42, but I at least skimmed the Squadron 42 report. I just found that I don't see a lot of people who look at the Squadron 42 monthly report the way I do. Like I've seen plenty of other content creators look over the Star Citizen monthly report. and often do summaries or reviews or kind of pull out bits and pieces. But I pulled out stuff from the Squadron 42 monthly report that ended up in Star Citizen that, like, I think a lot of people were surprised by. I know it's all speculation, but with Todd Pappy leaving CIG, is that a bad sign for us or just him moving on after 9 years? No one can tell you, Nicodemus. Honestly, anyone who says they know either way is lying to you. Because we don't know why Todd Pappy left. We don't know what's going on. All we know is that Todd Pappy no longer works at CIG. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's a good sign or it's a bad sign. All I can say is that likely people are making a mountain out of a molehill when it comes to this. He isn't the first high-level person to have left Star Citizen, and Star Citizen has been fine and set in the future. We don't know the reasons behind it, and frankly, it doesn't fucking matter. Life goes on. Yeah, apparently he's no longer working for CIG. All we know is that he is apparently from his social media profile, he's moving to Washington and he is looking for work. So he didn't get poached or anything. He just moved to Washington after living in Germany for a long time. That's it. Might be retiring. Who knows? When I talked to Todd Pappy at CitizenCon, he'd been working on games since the Atari days. So the problem is, Nicodemus, is that no one knows the answer. Anyone who claims to know the answer that isn't Todd Pappy is lying. That's it. That's it. And we won't know unless Todd speaks up. And if Todd doesn't speak up, that's it's none of our fucking business. All we can do is look at how Star Citizen's being developed and see where it goes from there. Especially for those who don't know, Star Citizen originally had a live game developer named Eric Wingman Peterson, and he was very involved in the Star Citizen community. He did Disco's job before Disco was on. He ran the equivalent of Star Citizen Live and Inside Star Citizen back in the day, which was called Wingman's Hangar. And eventually he left Star Citizen and worked on his own game company with a bunch of other developers who were on part of Star Citizen to form their own game company. And that was well back at the very beginning when he was the main way we interacted with the community. So. We won't know until things get worked out. Until then, the plan continues as CIG has set it forward. So the point is that worrying about one person or a couple people leaving Star Citizen is pointless and fruitless, and it doesn't mean anything. Like, I've seen a lot of people who have left Star Citizen and CIG over the years for better opportunities, for better pay, for different challenges, and it hasn't changed Star Citizen pretty much at all. So. As far as I know, Tony Z still works for CIG. Hey, Anger PC Tech. One thing is certain, there are not significant layoffs at CIG due to restructuring. It is literally just people who were focused on Star Citizen coming back to Star Citizen after 2 more years from reorganization. And some reorganization. Yeah, generally speaking, we would have seen a lot more movement. I think, as far as I know, there's been mentions of 3 people who've talked about leaving CIG because of restructuring or because of like other kind of changes. And that's it, which isn't unusual. I've seen like handfuls of people leave Star Citizen and come back, or either let go or come back. So. Basically, what I'm trying to say is anybody who's making hay out of this has probably got an ulterior motive. Yeah, that was one of the things. That was a weird thing. I remember someone mentioning that the Austin studio is restructuring, which is why people are being fired. And my own response is, the people I know who've been let go from CIG aren't working in Austin, as far as I know. Most of them have been working in Frankfurt. So. But it's going to be annoying because everyone's going to come in panicking, like, what? This is terrible. These things are happening. It's like, it's not the first time it's happened. It won't be the last time it happens. There will be people who you get really attached to who are developers from Star Citizen who have been on ISC a lot or SCL, whom people love, who will have moved on. Like, Elliot is a fantastic dude. I love him, and I love the fact that he's part of the community. DJ, another fantastic dude. I love that he's part of the community. I know both of them will probably move on at some point from CIG. I'm not saying you're going to move on tomorrow or this year even, but at some point they will, because that's just how people are. People move on. It's more rare to see people stay at a company for like decades, especially in the game industry, than it is for people to move on because they got better opportunities or because they wanted to change different things. One of the guys who let go in Austin was Austin, but he was like a level designer. Due to his restructuring to homogenize certain things, more certain locations to focus on Manchester, Frankfurt, and Montreal. Yeah, I imagine a lot of the stuff that's happening is mostly because of Montreal being added as part of CIG. We frequently forget that these people have families, and those needs frequently drive changes that have zero to do with their professional life. Yeah, that's true too. I knew Star Citizen developers who moved on to had a chance to start their own companies, who had a chance to go off and teach, who got better opportunities to do something that they really always wanted to do. I've seen CIG devs who ended up working because they wanted to work in a very specific position, but there were no positions open at CIG for it, so they worked with another friend of theirs, and they ended up going off to a different company to work on those kind of products. That's just how game development is. The issue is also people see this in the context of the mass layoffs across the industry and think it's one of the same and couldn't be further from the truth. Yeah, we're not talking about like half of the company being fired like you see in some of the major developers. This seems to be more in response to just they have Montreal now, so there may be some duplication across the board. One other thing in my experience isn't necessarily helpful. The only working in basic coding jobs. Magic reconstructions of an engine or anything like that can be too big a change for even veteran employees. It literally does not matter how long you've worked there. If a company goes on in a different direction from what you're familiar with and someone else can step up, natural progression occurs and you step down or aside with someone else who works on it. Yeah. Just magic. Major. Yeah. Major reconstruction of an engine or something. Yeah. Benoit is the chief technology officer of CIG now, CTO. So pull something up real quick. There are currently 39 job positions open at CIG. 0 in LA, 1 in Austin, 8 in Frankfurt, 25 in Manchester, and 4 in Montreal. Now, is that a lot? Generally, yeah. Is that a lot compared to what CIG is in the past? No. CIG had like 100 plus positions. A lot of these positions are filled, but you'll notice that most of them are in Manchester and Frankfurt, with some in Montreal and 1 in Austin. I think Austin's probably the marketing or sales person, I think. Marketing. Yeah, it's sales. And that one's been on there for a while. So most of them are some are design, DevOps, publishing, marketing, engineering and programming is the biggest ones. 2 corporate operations, 1 animation, 2 art, and 2 audio. So, yeah. I'd be in Montreal tomorrow if I can go ask them. But I just figured I'd nip that in the bud because I know that wasn't the first person asking that question. It's been asked a couple times in the chat, and people like really either concerned or scared based off of what's going on. We just don't know. The answer is we don't know if unless Todd or the other people who left or were let go tells us why. We may never know, and that's none of our business. Quite frankly, it's up to them. And we don't know if it's going to affect Star Citizen or not. The only way we know is if Star Citizen starts having problems. And as far as we know, it's not having problems currently. Yeah. Generally speaking, LA is the hub for operations, like legal and PR, or like PR and marketing is mostly there. Austin is the DevOps team, so a lot of the like all of the patches that are pushed to the game come from Austin. Austin's like the head of the back-end support structure. Frankfurt is the engine developers. Those are the people who were former Crytek devs who helped build the CryEngine. Manchester is mostly gameplay, mostly focused on Squadron, but also gameplay. Montreal originally was a PU support team designed to be mostly focusing on the PU. I say that, but all of them have ship developers, level designers, coders. They all have all the positions that exist in Star Citizen. It's just they mainly focus on those things. You can say who it is, Flood. Made it clickbaity. Like who are we talking about? I don't mind you dropping who it is, just so I know what the fuck is going on. Just checking in from work. Keep spreading that liberty, Helldiver. I'm not in Helldiver, but thank you. I'm not in Helldivers, but thank you. I'll look through my own list to see if I know anybody. Oh, it was Cameral. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. The guy who like insulted Chris Roberts about his own game on his own website. Yeah. It's always important to remember people's biases. Like, people like Cameral are very technical. Cameral does a lot of really good technical work in videos, but he also has a bias that he thinks Star Citizen and CIG don't know what they're doing and are actively fucking up the development of the game. Sees very much conspiracies or kind of negative biases against Star Citizen in terms of its business profile. Myself, you know, I don't have my own bias. I know a lot of people work at CIG who are friends of mine. I tend to be critical of CIG, but I tend to also be a little bit more forgiving on certain things that other people aren't, based off of my own experience and based off of what I've seen. You know, someone like Mike is going to come at a critical angle because Mike wants to see gameplay in Star Citizen, you know. Board is just agnostic. He's just going to like get as much information out there as possible, no matter what context is, just to try to get it out there because they're making content, but they're getting news out there and stuff like that. Tomato is really going to try to focus on the more on information because he wants to make sure it looks good, it sounds good, and it's well organized and paced, and it's nicely organized and ready for people to consume. It's just everyone has their own bias and their own kind of perspective of things. And so long as you understand those biases, you can understand the context of what they're coming from and also agree or disagree with things, you know? Kind of come up with your own reason for things that happen. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm not trying to insult anyone because content creation is fucking hard. It's not an easy concept. A lot of people think, oh, it's simple. It's like, no, there's a lot of ups and downs and bullshit that you have to go through to make content. But yeah, it's just everyone's going to come out with their own perspectives. Morph has his own perspective as well. Fairster is sexy. That's what he does. I am totally not biased though, because, you know, I've done work with Fairster and, you know, added my voice to some of his content. I didn't deep light. Hope you and the lady had a good Valentine's Day. We did not really do a lot of Valentine's stuff. I kind of gave her a bunch of stuff the day before Valentine's because it was a little bit more fitting sort of thing. But yeah, I hope everything's good with the Pappy household. That's what I'll say, because that seemed like a big change moving from living in Germany for probably over a decade. Possibly even longer, and now suddenly moving to the States again, like Washington. Sounds like a serious change. So hopefully everything's. Sarastra is very, very consistent in this format. This is probably here. He hangs out sometimes here. Has to change all his power supplies to US's AC. That alone sounds like a nightmare. I hear you. I had to work and make money for from the fiance on Valentine's. Got her flowers and chocolate and ate out tonight. Cam and I really don't celebrate a lot of Valentine's Day stuff. It's not really our kind of ideal. I got her like some jewelry and some like a stuffed animal and stuff like that, which she enjoyed, but. Videos made an Australian Lord of PowerPoint slideshow. All right. I think I've delayed long enough. We're going to do the monthly report, so stick around. Let's get started. Add real quick. I'm going to go get some water, and when I come back, we'll get started. So my voice doesn't die. Sound alerts are on. So if you're watching this on YouTube, mute it until I come back, because they're going to go insane.
To democracy!
Water. Shut up, Drekkie. It's water.
To democracy!
I'd be dead if I was drinking this.
Weapons free, y'all.
To democracy! I love it. I love it. I love it.
Good news, everyone.
I love it. To democracy!
Hello, I like money.
To democracy! To democracy! To democracy!
Good news, everyone.
Two words. Distress and bacon.
Drugs.
I'm Fly. I'm Pilot.
To democracy! I love democracy.
No more fun. All right. Just to add to the madness. You missed Paul going on the record saying that PvP community is toxic, Ratcatcher. Yes, I did go on record saying the PvP community is toxic. I'm not going to back off on that. The PvP community is toxic, often very badly toxic. It's a very good community for PvP in comparison, but to say that all PvPers are cuddly bugs that are just here to have fun and fight people, and that's wrong. There's plenty of people in Star Citizen PvP community who are absolute monsters because that's what happens. So I'm not saying that everyone who ever engages in PvP is a psychopath and deserves to be skinned alive, because I engaged and will engage in PvP. What I was saying is that PvP leads to some toxic behavior, and it can cause problems if it is the only thing that is supported or focused on in Star Citizen. PvP toxicity transcends the entire gaming genre. Yeah, it's not just a Star Citizen thing. It's forever thing. Didn't Adventure do like 2 videos on this idea? For the context, Ratcatcher, someone said that Star Citizen is not a PvE game, it's a PvP game, and that people are going to have to just suck it up and deal with the consequences of PvP at the new distribution centers. And my response was, Star Citizen's not a PvP game, it's a PvE game with PvP in it. It's always a threat, it's always you always have a chance of experiencing PvP, but it's not focused on PvP. The argument then continued on to say that, like, all games that all the most successful games who make money are PvP games. When my point was, no, kowtowing just specifically to PvP is a mistake. You're going to get more legs out of PvE than PvP. So. Nope, I am not objectively incorrect. I am completely correct. It is a PvE game with PvP in it. Calling this a PvP game is a mistake in terms of how the game is designed and will be designed in the future, where they're going with it. And it is going to lead to a lot of problems with PvP players who are going to quit because it's not what they thought it was. The number of people I've seen who want to be pirates in Star Citizen, who expect piracy to be exclusively player-based, is insanely high. And whenever I mention you're probably mostly going to be pirating NPCs, they get really upset about that fact. And it's like, that's just how the game's going to be designed. Paul, did you notice Star Citizen alignment system? Lawful, unlawful, aggressive, non-aggressive? You're wrong, objectively. No, I'm not. Like, open PvP, not an option, state of game by design. I don't think you understand what I'm saying, Ratcatcher. What I'm saying is that at its core, Star Citizen's a PvE experience. You don't have to participate at all in PvP and still get experience out of it. PvP is there, but this isn't Titanfall. This isn't Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, or Call of Duty Warzone. This isn't I don't know what other kind of games out there that are like space-based for this one, but it's you could never experience another player in Star Citizen and still enjoy the game. I don't want it to be PvE. I'm saying it is. I'm saying you want it to be PvP, and it objectively is not a PvP game. You got to understand, Pat, I have participated in PvP. I will participate in PvP. I like PvP games. What I'm saying is Star Citizen, from its design, is not going to be primarily focused on PvP. There will be PvP elements in places where PvP go, but that is not the focus of the game. And anyone who doesn't see that is going to set themselves up for massive disappointments when they move forward on this. That's just it. It's PvE plus P. Yeah, it's a PvE universe with PvP in it. That's it. Need 5 minutes to Duolingo. It's lesson. Did you have to kill those 8 people in Seraphim Station? Ratcatcher? Was that part of a mission? Was that the goal of the game? To kill those 8 people? Is that what you're saying? Then I don't know how you disagree with me on this one. What I'm saying is Star Citizen is built as a PvE game with PvP in it. So you don't have to participate in PvP at all. But you can. There will be consequences down the line. Because like if you're running through Seraphim Station just shooting anybody who moves, there will be consequences for that. And those will be mostly PvE consequences. Your experience with whatever factions that run that station or the factions that had good reputation with those players, there will be a consequence for that. And that is a PvE consequence, not a PvP consequence. Because the game isn't focused around you killing players exclusively, it's not a PvP game. It's focused on other aspects of engaging in the universe. PvP is just one part of it. I think you're misunderstanding when I'm saying it's not a PvP game. What I'm saying is the game isn't designed specifically to be PvP around PvP. It's designed around PvE, which has PvP as part of that experience, but it is not required to play. That's it. Player bounties is one mission out of, like, what, dozens, hundreds? It's the only PvP specific one. There are PvP specific like events too, like Jump Town, and then there's the what is it? The Ghost Hollow mission. Those are great events. But even CIG has acknowledged that those events can get boring unless players actively want to participate and want to do things like add PvE experiences where players will come in and do those things. I don't know why I've offended Ratcatcher so much by agreeing with everything he said, but I'm just saying, buddy, I'm gonna have to move on from this, obviously, but there's gonna be come to Jesus moment for a lot of people, not just for PvPers. This is gonna happen for everybody, where Star Citizen is going to shape up to be not the game you thought it was. It's going to move in one way or another that you're not interested in. That makes sense. Yeah, the entire sandbox is open PvP. Besides legacy weapon lock zones, that has been slowly going away, and some of them will be replaced with PvE guards, like guards or turrets or other things. There will still be protective zones where you'll have to encounter and engage with the PvE experiences. That's not a thesis, though. If Star Citizen's a PvP game, it's a shitty-ass PvP game. It sucks as a PvP game if it's a PvP game. Probably one of the worst PvP games of all time if Star Citizen's a PvP game. Objectively means that it's true 100%, no one can argue with you. And the fact that I'm arguing with you means I'm right. It's not objectively. Yeah. Let's go on the monthly report. All right. All right. Turned everything off. I think good. I'm going to go to the one. This. Mute. All right. Hello and welcome to another Office Hours capsule. That's right, capsule. This is a small section of my Office Hours live stream where I kind of break off and talk a little bit for you, put it in a little video for you to watch. But I would always love you to join us live at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive at Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. You come hang out with chat here and talk about Star Citizen lore, news, everything in between. It's kind of a hangout, chill, and ask questions sort of stuff. And I might get a little spicy and make a little controversial statements that get chat riled up. But and there's chat saying this isn't live because they're technically right because this is recording and it's not live now, but it's live when I'm doing this. So, anywho. Right now, we're going to be doing our Squadron 42 monthly report for the month of January. Just as a reminder, this is a full read-through. This isn't a summary. There's nothing wrong with summaries, but I feel like if you really want to get to know everything there is about the project, it's important to read through it all. As always, I would encourage you to read the full thing yourself. It is in the description. I put the link to it as well, so you can read along with me if you like. But I also know that people have lives. You have other things to do. So I do read this as kind of an audiobook form of this. I will interject every so often with context and other things that I've picked up over my years of reading these to help you understand, especially if you're new to the project, what a lot of this stuff means. But I also may not know a lot of the technical terms. So if you do, please let me know in the comments below. And then, without any further ado, let's get started. AI content. Throughout January, AI content progressed with Shubin Station content for Chapter 5, with a focus on the main hangar, security, trams A and B, social hub, and main bridge. This includes working on the utility deck, bridge, and engineering crews, and security tram passengers, hub patrons, and vendors. AI content also continued to focus on improving the variety of personal locations and lockers. Specifically, NPCs approaching lockers, changing out their base outfits, entering cubicles to shower, and then returning their lockers to get dressed again. So, a lot of social content. They've kind of talked about this in the Star Citizen monthly report as well, that they've been working on a lot of social content. This seems like a lot of detail for Chapter 5. And for context, chapters are kind of expand this out a little so it's easier to see. Chapters are what Star Citizen calls missions. So there are missions that happen inside chapters, and they're not necessarily like broken into missions, but each chapter is like a part of the game with missions inside of it. So this is talking about, obviously Chapter 5 is when you're in Shubin Station. So. AI features. Last month, AI features continued to polish the technology used to fire arced rocket pods. Ooh. Someone had told me about this before. This system solves equations that have multiple variables, angle of throw and speed, and range of solutions that need to be evaluated. On top of the arcing solution, collision checks must be performed, which repurposes existing technology created for grenades and other arced fire weapons. Okay, so for those of you who don't get what this means artillery. That's what this means. This means artillery. Which makes sense. I've heard rumors of artillery in Squadron 42 as part of the missions. But they were rumors, so I couldn't tell you one way or the other if they're going to be in there or not. This is confirmation they're working on artillery. Which, if they're working on artillery in Squadron, wouldn't be too much of a concept for them to have moved this idea over to Star Citizen. So, yeah. That's pretty interesting. But it's specifically for AI, so it'll be interesting if they kind of move that over to Star Citizen as well. Finer polish of behaviors and level is currently underway to ensure details of animations and systematic behaviors form a cohesive whole. Let's see. AI Tech. AI Tech picked up where they left off last year, cleaning up the ability for multiple NPCs to use ladders simultaneously when moving in the same direction. The transit team received upgrades to make use transit smoother and logic smoother and more robust when handling fails, retries, and fallbacks. For NPCs using elevators, the flow was improved to create more efficient sequence. For example, characters won't go back and forward anymore and will instead board the elevator directly, eliminating unnecessary waiting or interim positions. AI Tech are currently refining the new loading procedure for subsumption data. This will allow stricter requirements on the data so they can immediately identify issues. This functionality will be enabled as an additional step when submitting for validation. For spaceships, the team focused on numerous bug fixes and improvements specifically for combat scenarios and AI traits, the latter of which helps influence AI logic. For example, by allowing NPCs to prefer certain behaviors over others. This allows for the designers to balance gameplay based on the enemy faction players are fighting. Existing traits include Strafer Override, which forces the pilot to always choose the Strafer tactic, and Speed Freak, which always chooses the boost and has slightly higher speeds. Okay, so this is interesting. A lot of this seems to be focusing on uniquely making each faction fight differently in the game, so you feel like who you're fighting based off how they're working. So, yeah, works. Animation. Oh, and for those of you who don't know, a lot of what they did with AI Tech, what they're talking about mostly here when they're talking about AI traits for ships, what they're talking about is the system that currently is attached to FPS in the universe. For FPS at like in Star Citizen right currently, that system they developed for Squadron, they've attached that to ships and are now improving upon that system, which will then eventually be imported in Star Citizen itself. So, if this music is a little loud, I will turn it down. Yep, should be fine. Oh, that's because my mic is a little bit low. There we go. That's why. That should help. Let's see. Animation. Last month, the animation team further refined the feel of the AI in a number of chapters to better tell the story. They also worked on malfunctions, prone EVA, and several boss fights, and further refined combat animations for different enemy types. They're currently implementing new story beats to better align how levels feel. This is supported by the mocap team via focused shoots that quickly add improvements to the game. On the facial front, the team is hard at work implementing additional lines for Old Man to add more value to the player's relationship with him. It looks like a lot of this is focusing on storytelling beats in Squadron 42 itself. So, of course, boss fights. Every time I mention boss fights in Star Citizen, people get mad. I don't want boss fights in Star Citizen. It's like, why not? It's always a confusing thing, but, you know. Art environment. January saw environment arts strike teams progress with chapters 1, 4, and 5. We've pushed a lot of the core development teams into delivering these chapters alongside the design teams. It's been rewarding to see the progress we've been making together in these locations. Environment art team. Locations-wise, passes were made on interior, hangar, security, social, and bridge sections of Archon Station, while the white box metric art for store interiors was converted to final. So, for those of you who don't know, strike teams have been the thing that they formed since a lot of the teams that were ported from Star Citizen to Squadron to develop things like the new mobiGlas, the star map, the FPS behaviors, all of that stuff. A lot of those teams have moved on to back to Star Citizen. So the Squadron team has reorganized into smaller strike teams, which is what they do with some, like when they're trying to like really refine one thing to get it done. So there are strike teams that work on several different chapters at once. I believe there's one that's working like 1 through 5 and then through 10 or something like that. So these are groups of people from all different disciplines who've come together to work on that level, to kind of like look at it as a whole and see if this chapter 1 makes sense in terms of its narrative, in terms of its layout, in terms of its gunplay, in terms of the enemy varieties. It kind of looks at a holistic approach to the missions rather than, or to the chapters rather than just like individual disciplines. So that's what a strike team is. It's like a smaller group of people from across different disciplines to look at the game. Aha! This is the big one. The one, probably the reason why you clicked on this, because I skimmed through this and was like, this is what I'm going to use. The Javelin received a complete pass this month, including intact and damaged interiors, a full lighting pass, and a dynamic dressing that reacts to the damaged version of the ship. Environment art also continued to update the Javelin's exterior to a new, higher standard for capital ship exteriors. Once completed, they'll move on to the damaged version. Locations in Chapter 4 were also worked up to a high standard, including the interior of some asteroid truck stops and an abandoned ship. Finally, for the environment art, the Odin system was updated with a new Sun Nebula that can be seen during downtime. That's big. So they're basically reworking the Javelin to have it full lighting pass, dynamic dressing to damaged versions of the ship, updated the Javelin's exterior to a new, higher standard for capital ship exteriors. So it'll be interesting to see how long that takes. So, core gameplay. Polish on the star map's features continued in January, including new box outs to give information about the selected location and what service it provides. It also gives the option to set quantum routing, drawing the route between current location and destination, similar to star map. Okay. Similar to the current star map. Okay. So they're kind of polishing up the star map's features for Squadron. The character customizer gained further improvements, allowing for player to save and load their characters, which also enables the backing up and sharing of customized character appearances. A randomization function was also worked on to give aesthetically pleasing results. Core gameplay worked alongside the back-end team to help with data serialization and compress the data as much as possible to make sending character data to other clients as efficient as possible. That's interesting. I'm wondering if some of this stuff is going to be ending up in Star Citizen as well. This is core gameplay for Squadron, but a lot of this stuff feels like Star Citizen content, like, box out information for selected locations and the saving and exporting the character for other people to pick up and use if they need to. So, interesting. Gameplay story. The gameplay story team begins the year improving scenes across different chapters. For example, several scenes were updated with the new mocap at the start or end, or both, to pose match to systemic animations. This ensures that they dovetail well into the rest of the game and make them more robust. One tricky scene in Chapter 14 was completely overhauled with new mocap and is now considered by design to be bulletproof. Gameplay Storm Team. Gameplay Storm Team? What? Gameplay Storm Team? Xylo, what does that mean? Tell me, Xylo, what does it mean? Alongside this, the team communicated with the stakeholders to establish a proper standard for grip setup for helmets. They're currently batch updating helmet animations to use the new setup, which will unblock a lot of long-standing issues. Level design. Social narrative started the year where they left off, striving to close out Archon's social area. This walk and talk section presents particular challenges, including the potential for players to leave their guide and explore the station. Devs also closed out outstanding issues on the social section of Chapter 1 and continued to focus on the interstitials and the key scene and a key scene in Chapter 8. Work was also done on conversations between the Aegis crew, who reference the player and current in-game situation. So, for those of you who don't know, a lot of what Star Citizen, or a lot of what Squadron 42 has, is driven by the player's decisions. So, if players choose to not watch a cutscene, they can click a button and then walk down to where the cutscene is happening, and it's happening in front of them in real time. They said that, like, for instance, if you looked at the vertical slice of when the MPUV was landing, and then they were kind of removing the prisoners from the MPUV. They said that you'd be able to skip that cutscene and actually walk down to the flight deck and watch it happen in front of you if you wanted to. So you have that cinematic experience with Squadron, if you like a classic Chris Roberts game, or you could walk down and watch it happening in front of you because it's all done in engine, in game. So it has its own unique animations and everything, but it's all used the same kind of. And so that's what it sounds like what they're doing here. It's like you can leave, you can kind of more exploratory, and then of course interacting with, like, there are sections of Squadron 42 that are just social. You walk around your ship talking with people and going from place to place. So there might be some sections where you don't have any combat at all. It's just talking with people on the ship and, you know, moving on from there if you need to. All right. Narrative. The narrative team began the new year further refining the narrative elements of Squadron 42. For example, the team identified a few key moments where additional loudspeaker announcements would help drive the sense of urgency. First, they added a placeholder recordings, and once the team is satisfied with how the movements, how the moments feel in game, they record with professional voice actors. The team also made passes on various UI elements, providing new text as needed alongside revisiting text to provide further clarity or impact. Work also continued on the game's collectibles. The teams continued to coordinate with the artists to create memorable, eye-catching things to discover. Additionally, the team spent time diving deeper into how players will learn information on the game's lore through Galactopedia entries as they naturally progress through the story. More Galactopedia stuff, collectibles, and kind of really dialing in that experience, which is hopefully what they're really focusing on now that they've gone beyond feature complete status. So, UI. In January, the UI team continued to polish the vehicle UI, including getting some of the holographic elements to appear on physical screens for the lower tech ships. They also improved the display of quantum travel information and polished elements of the turret UI. They also added various animated screens to make screens in-game more interesting, including enemy tech, screens for civilian areas, and help show the story in a key section near the start of the game. Regarding FPS UI, a pass was started to bring the lens up to standard now that the visor is in a good state. We've been working on some updated concepts to give it a fresher look, whilst also including some of the improvements we created for the visor. UI team. And lastly, VFX. Last month, the VFX team continued to support art, design, and cinematics team with their VFX requirements. This included updating dynamic fire effects to work on additional locations to accommodate new graphic scenarios. They also created a new ROTUS system to make sure that the number of VFX-related data errors was reduced to 0. Each week, an artist is picked to work directly with the embedded VFX QA team member to ensure the existing bug list is kept at 0 week to week. Right. So, it's a pretty small one. It's January. January is usually the kind of lighter elements of things, and a lot of what CIG has been doing over the last couple of months has been focusing on strike teams and improving very specific elements of the game. Though we can pull some of the ideas out. They're definitely reworking some of the UI, kind of bringing that up to the new standards, which is very typical in these sorts of situations. Getting a basic working UI it makes sense, and then refining it to make sure it looks good and feels good, and fits in narratively makes sense. The narrative team is really focusing on key elements. Level design is working on Archon Station, which is the station, I believe, that Shubin Station is. The Shubin Station called Archon Station. So, new scenes, core gameplay, bring up things like star map and character customizer. The Javelin getting a complete overhaul for it. New mentions of social interactions with AI, ways of wandering away from the AI, and somehow we're getting artillery. All awesome ideas. So short, hopefully sweet. But as always, I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And I do want to thank Factor for sponsoring the stream. Factor is a fantastic service. I've used it in the past. If you find yourself often being too tired to make your own dinners, or forgetting to pack a lunch, but you don't want to go out to get food or order food, Factor is a fantastic service to give you good, healthy, unique foods, which you get weekly from them. They come in boxes, refrigerator boxes. You pull them out, you put them in your fridge, and they're good for 7 days. And all you got to do to heat one up and eat it is stick it in a microwave for 2 to 3 minutes, pull it out, and it's good to go. Nice variety of foods, good, and things like vegetarian, vegan, keto. They've got a lot of different options for there as well. I've used them in the past. And if you use my code, which I'll have in the top comment and top pin comment and in the comments below, or in the description below, you can get 50% off your first box with me. That's in some cases $60+ depending on which kind of boxes you get, which is a great deal if you get it. And again, thank you for Factor for sponsoring the stream. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. All right, should be back. Excited for the Jab Pass, yeah. Hey, quick question. Has anyone been having issues with boxes just yeeting off to nowhere? No, but that sounds like a Star Citizen bug. Too much concept, too much Star Citizenships. Which concept next? I don't know. Yes, on Reclaimer, there is a entity limit. What? Getting the Apollo bug. No salvage mediumship? Not recently, no. Just playing Helldivers right now. Hi, Paul. Always look forward to your streams. Thank you for watching, Arcane. Andrew's still here? Andrew's still here, I think. You want the Argo, Paul? Yeah, the box is straight up gone. Wow. I was looking for you. Okay, yeah. Well, that's what I say, but this young gentleman mentioned bugs. Lady. Iris is a lady. Will the Apollo be available at Invictus? Yeah, probably. It is a combat ship, so makes sense. Yeah, I've stopped recording for a bit, so we're good. We'll head out here shortly. Kind of wrapping it up. We've been streaming for about 3 hours, so I'll give it a couple more minutes. Kind of ease off. If you have questions or anything, feel free to let me know. It's been a light content in terms of Star Citizen information, but that's to be expected because it's coming off of January. But it should ramp up a little bit. I hate that bug sometimes when a crate is attached to a grid, it'll go mock Jesus out of a cargo hold. It has like no weight to it. Yeah. Hey, Shogi. Oh. Will Star Citizen ever get weighted boxes? Maybe. Someday. At some point. What do you think we'll see in terms of 1K plus 1K SCU plus ship manufacturers? And do you think they'll handle the entity limit in relation to the scale? Well, the entity limit is going to be bypassed with specifically server meshing. That's how that's going to function. Will Star Citizen ever function well? Yeah, I just don't know when. I'm already getting set on a Carrack, but I'm now leaning towards the Apollo as my main. But yeah, so effectively, the way that the deals with the entity limit is by splitting the playable area into different servers, which means that you've reduced the total number of entities that area has to support, so you could increase the total number of areas around that. So the actual answer is dynamic server meshing is the thing that's going to allow you for those sort of things to happen, which should also improve performance, server side and client side overall, by accident, not intentional. So. If you want a versatile ship, get the Carrack. Apollo is very specialized and niche, all for being the respawn ship for my org. Yeah, it's going to be very specifically focused on it. So the whole E gets its own server if it needs to. I don't think the whole E has a lot of entities, but it's not nearly as many entities as you think. .4.0 is not going to be beta. I do think that beta is going to happen after 4.0. I've been saying for a while that 4.0 is probably going to be one of the shorter runs of patches, because I think once they reach the end of the 4.0 of Star Citizen Alpha 4.0, there's really not much left to do but call it beta. And I know a lot of people are like, but what about exploration or transport or insert anything here? Will that get done in that short amount of time? Probably not, but it's not really required for the base fundamental gameplay, the basic functions of how Star Citizen works. It'll be fine. And they'll iterate on some of that gameplay down the line in beta. I'm yawning because it's like past 10 o'clock and I got 4 hours of sleep last night because I played too much, too much Helldivers last night. Personal automatic utility lasso. This is the Argo Paul. Iris, you reach the fuck you, I'll see you tomorrow limit for Star Citizen. That's why I intentionally don't expose myself too much to Star Citizen outside of the streams, because I don't want to deal with the problems. I'm not going to play Helldivers tonight. I'm playing Helldivers tomorrow. I probably won't sleep well tomorrow, but you know. Oh, I will say that we have a new, we're going to be streaming a little earlier on Saturday than we normally do, because we have a special stream for Saturday. This is one I've been meaning to put together for a while, and someone jumped in at the last minute, was like, can I join? And I'm like, Jesus titty fucking Christ. This is stacked. So, the theme for this Saturday is, pause for dramatic effect, trading and industrial gameplay, and how that's going to change in this year. Okay? We have Sigelian, Super Mac Bros, and Jack Axton. No Tad Pappy. Nugget Vert and Darsh too. No. No. It was nuts. Yeah, Super Mac. I haven't had Super Mac on a captain's table in like 4 years. So, it's nuts. So Jack Axton, I talked with Jack about coming on the captain's table at some point. He's like, yeah, I want to come on the captain's table. I'm like, why haven't you ever asked? He's like, I never thought I was welcome. And then when I was talking about it to Sigelian's like, I want to come on that one. It's like, Sigelian's an industrial player. Like, that's great. And then I mentioned it. I was like, hey, we're going to have Jack. So I want Jack to come on, and we're going to get some other players. And Super Mac Bros, like, Mac messaged me. He's like, I want on that. I was like, damn, all right. Jesus, I have the Star Citizen cryptids on the captain's table. Jesus. Yeah, it's gonna be hard to watch this in Twitch and be a Helldiver. I made you a regular, by the way, Northern Trooper, because I realized you were in comms. So yeah, I just don't have space for Red Monster. Otherwise, I would. You're not going to talk about the NDA and Evocati patch? Oh, yeah, we can talk about that. The basic gist of how it's working with Evocati is that we can now, Evocati members can now talk about what's in the patch and their experiences in the patch, and they can give their overall impressions of what's going on in Star Citizen's Evocati patches. But we still can't show images or video or stream of our experiences, which is great. It's moving towards the thing that it should have been in the first place, which is the reason why they wanted Evocati to be under NDA was because they didn't want players to stream the game fucking failing all the time. Because that's what happened with the 2.0. 2.0 was awful for Star Citizen's like publicity, and so they tried to restrict some of that, but they still needed those players to play, so that's why they created Evocati. And a lot of people got mad about it because they're like, I want early access to see all the things that are in the game, and it's like, yeah, but sometimes you don't actually care, you don't actually want to see what they're showing off. So say don't show. Yeah, you can talk about your experience in Evo or the patch. Yes. Evocati patch notes being public is long overdue. It was already practically public. CIG did nothing to stop the patch notes being released, so why not? No show but can't tell. Yeah. Yeah. At some point, I gotta get Pete on. What I do is I gotta get online and Pete and Voidy to come on to a captain's table at some point. And talk about, is Star Citizen a functional experience, or is it just a gaggle of insane asylum inmates that have decided that Star Citizen is a game now? Rich insane asylum. So you think going back, they never took me off the fucking list. I still get access to it somehow, even though I told them to take me off the list. Yeah. Do you think CIG will make us pay for access to Mobiglass or Com Network? No, I don't think so. Secret Infinite Character Test. I'd like to see you and Anna in an interview. Anna's been on the captain's table before, Shogi. Like 3, I think. You asked to turn your Redeemer into a consolidated Phoenix Paw? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to ask to get it removed at some point, but yeah. Our flight surface is coming 3.23. No. Nope. All right. Thank you all for joining us. I'm going to call it a night. It's been over 3 hours of streaming. I will be back tomorrow for some Helldivers. And then on Saturday, I'll be a little earlier than usual. So we'll start at about noon Eastern or Central. So about 1 p.m. Eastern, which is about 9 a.m. Pacific. The actual stream will, the actual like YouTube part of it will start, which will actually be like kind of the VOD afterwards, the recording afterwards, is going to start at 4 p.m. Eastern instead of 6, which is like 1 p.m. Pacific. So it'll be running the same amount of time, but it'll just be earlier. So. And then, yeah, Sunday we'll be doing a lore expeditions in Star Citizen. And we'll have a special stream on Monday where I'm going to be doing more Helldivers on Monday because I can, because I really like the game. There'll be another lore video on the San Tokiai coming out this weekend, hopefully. And then I'll be releasing the reaction video that we just recorded probably tomorrow with the monthly report next Tuesday. So. Thank you again for hanging out. Love all your faces, and like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.